call this meeting to order. Je déclare.
I call this meeting to order.
Bienvenue.
Welcome to the 17th meeting of the House of Commons Special Committee on the COVID-19 pandemic.
It will be a hybrid meeting. Members will be participating via video conference or in person. A reminder that in order to avoid issues with sound, members participating in person should also not be connected to the video conference. Je vous prie d'attendre.
Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name, and please direct your remarks through the chair.
For those joining via video conference, I would like to remind you to leave your mic on mute when you are not speaking. Also, please note that if you want to speak in English, you should be on the English channel. And if you want to speak in French, you should be on the French channel. And should you wish to alternate between the two languages, you should change the channel to the language that you are speaking each time you switch languages. And while I have your attention, for those of you who are at home and have your boom over, please ensure that it's not too far or not too close so that we get the true sound of your voice coming through and we spare the ears of our wonderful interpreters.
Should members participating by video conference need to request the floor outside their designated speaking times, they should activate their microphone and state that they have a point of order. Those in the chamber can rise in the usual way. Please note that today's proceedings will be televised in the same way as a typical sitting of the House.
We'll now proceed to, I believe we don't have any ministerial announcements today, so we'll proceed to presenting petitions. And the petitions period will not exceed 15 minutes.
I would like to remind members that petition presented during a meeting of the special committee must already have been certified by the clerk of the petitions.
Participating in person, we ask that they please come and drop their signed certificates off at the table once the petition is presented. The first petition today goes to Ms. May. Ms. May.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise to present two petitions on this anniversary of the massacre at Tiananmen Square. The first petition is from petitioners concerned about human rights in the People's Republic of China and the detention of practitioners of Falun Dafa or Falun Gong. They call on the Government of Canada and the Minister of Foreign Affairs to impress the importance of universal human rights to the Government of the People's Republic of China and to allow swifter accommodation to human rights within the People's Republic of China. The second petition, Mr. Speaker, also pertains to human rights within Canada. It's to call on the Government of Canada to follow and to be accountable to the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, to fulfill the calls for action of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and to move forward swiftly to meet the expectations of justice for the Wet'suwet'en people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The next petition will go to Mr. Jennis. Mr. Jennis.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleagues. Also on this somber anniversary, I want to present a petition dealing with a specific human rights issue that is an issue in China, but it's also a human rights issue in other places, the issue of forced organ harvesting and trafficking. I'm presenting a petition in support of Bill S-204. This bill would make it a criminal offense for a Canadian to go abroad and receive an organ for which there hasn't been consent. Forms of this bill were presented in previous parliaments by Boris Yashnevsky, by Erwin Kotler, and by myself. And I am hoping, petitioners are hoping, that this 43rd Parliament will finally get this important legislation over the goal line in order to protect vulnerable people who are victims of organ harvesting and trafficking around the world.
We'll now go to Mr. Viss. Mr. Viss.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I have another petition from my constituents calling upon the Government of Canada to stop targeting licensed, law-abiding firearms owners and to cancel all plans to confiscate their legally owned private property. The petitioners of Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon highlight that the majority of guns used in violent crimes are smuggled into Canada from the United States, and therefore legal Canadian firearms owners should not be used as scapegoats by the Liberal government. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll now continue with Mr. Manley. Mr. Manley.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to be presenting a petition here from Nanaimo Ladysmith. Tomorrow, this is an appropriate petition given that tomorrow is the United Nations World Environment Day and the theme is biodiversity in 2020. And the petitioners are calling upon the government to expand the marine protected areas, and they're requesting that the Federal Ministry of Fisheries and Oceans work with all relevant government branches to simplify multilateral communication and responsibility on the subject of marine protected areas. Thank you.
And now we'll go to, we will now proceed to statements by members for a period not exceeding 15 minutes. Each statement will be for no more than 1 minute, and a reminder that members that go over the time limit will be interrupted. We'll start off with Mr. Long. Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to begin by thanking essential workers from all sectors in St. John Rothsay and across New Brunswick who have been working around the clock to keep the people of our community safe, fed, and well supplied during this pandemic. Since we rose, my team and I have also been working around the clock to ensure that all New Brunswickers whose finances have been affected by this pandemic, from workers who were laid off, to essential workers, to seniors, to students, to small business owners, to persons with disabilities, receive the federal financial relief they need. Now the tremendous sacrifices we have all made to help flatten the curve are beginning to pay off. We are also focused on working with our federal, provincial, and municipal colleagues to build our region's economy back better as we emerge from this crisis. Together, we will keep the curve flat and ensure our region's economic resurgence. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll now go to Mr. Baldinelli. Mr. Baldinelli.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to the life and memory of a truly remarkable woman, Wilma Morrison, a nurse, community volunteer, and historian we all came to rely upon. Wilma worked tirelessly promoting and preserving the culturally rich and important history of Black Canadians residing in our community. In April, Wilma passed away at the age of 91 after a courageous battle against COVID-19. Wilma was a member of the Nathaniel Dett Chapel British Methodist Episcopal Church, which is now designated a historic site. When the church was threatened with being sold and destroyed in the 1990s, Wilma helped save the chapel and the significant volumes of heritage and genealogical books and records which document the contributions of Black residents in our community. The church is now a focal point of the Niagara Freedom Trail Tour, which Wilma played a large role in helping to develop. I last saw Wilma in February, and I can tell you, in meeting her, you could not help but feel better because of the time you had spent together. You also came away from your discussions recognizing there was so much more for us to accomplish as a community and country. Wilma Morrison will be missed, but her legacy will continue.
We'll now go to Ms. Fry. Ms. Fry.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, the terrible acts of violence against Black persons in the United States has brought racism to the forefront in Canada. Yet racism has been systemic and insidious here for generations. Not as openly violent as in America, but...
If I can just interrupt for a moment, Ms. Fry, your boom is up. If you can lower it to the level, the microphone is up around your head. If you can lower it to where your mouth is, we'll be able to hear it much better. Take your left hand to your side and lower it. I'm sorry to confuse you, but we want to hear what you have to say. On your headset, there's the boom that has the microphone on. There we go.
Or I just kind of forgot to do that.
Not a problem. Thank you. Please proceed.
All right. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, the terrible acts of violence against Black persons in the United States has brought racism to the forefront in Canada. Yet racism has been systemic and insidious here for generations. Not as openly violent as in America, but here in our institutions, workplaces, schools, and society. Over the last 30 years, Canada enacted progressive legislation to protect minorities, the Charter, employment equity, anti-hate laws. Yet statistics show Indigenous people still have the highest rates of suicide, poorest health outcomes, and most incarcerations. That visible minorities, despite education, are underemployed and underpaid. That many Black men are carded and suspected of criminality regularly. Crisis brings anger and fear. It cracks the thin veneer of tolerance in quiet, polite times. COVID-19 exposed anti-Chinese hate and amplified the reality of Black and Indigenous lives. We are all shaken and empathetic, but our denial and ignorance can no longer stand. We must listen and act, collect disaggregated data, set goals with policies and programs to achieve them. To build a strong, peaceful, prosperous nation, everyone must belong, and everyone must build it together.
Now we're going to Mr. Savard-Tremblay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The aerospace industry is a strategic sector that holds a key position in Quebec's economy. It is a pillar of Quebec's economic nationalism that allows us to shine internationally. Aerospace in Quebec means over 200 companies, 42,100 jobs, sales of over $15 billion, and 80% of our production is exported. And also 70% of Canadian R&D takes place in the Greater Montreal region. But much of this pride is overshadowed by grave concerns. Planes are grounded and orders have been cancelled. Aerospace has been heavily affected by the Canadian stock market since the beginning of the year. Revenues are dropping and workers are being laid off. Moreover, last year, the Institut de Québec denounced Ottawa's outright negligence of this industry. We quickly need a comprehensive and lasting policy to revive this very important sector. Thank you. We're now going to continue with Ms. Petitpas-Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 6 years ago today, unthinkable violence shattered the quiet community I serve. Like countless others in Moncton, Riverview, and Dieppe, this event remains deeply personal to me. At the time, I worked with the 3 RCMP members who died in the line of duty and 2 others who were injured. I have never spoken about this in Parliament, instead saving my remarks for the annual 3K for 3 Fathers run. This first run happened Father's Day 2014, just days after we said goodbye to Constable Doug Larch, Fabrice Javaudan, and Dave Ross. In the years since, the 3K for 3 Fathers and the community efforts have made the legacy of our darkest day one of love instead of hate. We have planted trees, raised scholarship funds at the run, gathered at a memorial, and otherwise honored those who ran to danger. COVID-19 keeps us from gathering this year. We will stand together by staying apart. But I want all Canadians to know that we stand forever Moncton strong.
We'll now go to Ms. Rempel-Gardner. Ms. Rempel-Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When lockdowns hit, the people in my riding were already facing a challenge. Federal policies designed to shut down our primary industry had left thousands out of work, and now there are thousands more in that situation. But none of this has broken our spirit. I would like to thank all of the community associations, faith groups, cultural associations, and business leaders in my riding for taking the time to meet with me regularly during these difficult times to help fight for the support our community needs. But I'd also like to thank them for working hard for our community themselves. Thank you to the Edgemont Community Association for their grocery and pharmacy delivery program, to Thorncliffe for their Help a Neighbor in Need program, to Sandstone for their Lunches for Kids in Need program, to Berkshire Citadel for their Emergency Food Bank program, to Northern Hills for their many programs and services that they offer, and to Huntington Hills, who are celebrating their 50th anniversary this year without a big public party, for their babysitting and grocery delivery program. I'm so proud to represent our community. I want to thank everyone in it for their resiliency, strength, and compassion towards one another. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We'll now go to Ms. Jazik. Ms. Jazik.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to acknowledge National Accessibility Week. This week is dedicated to highlighting the important contributions Canadians with disabilities make in our society and the efforts of individual Canadians, communities and workplaces to remove barriers to accessibility and inclusion. Just under a year ago, our government delivered on creating a more inclusive and accessible Canada by passing the Accessible Canada Act. As we address the COVID-19 pandemic, our priority remains helping persons with disabilities maintain their health, safety, and dignity. The creation of the COVID-19 Disability Advisory Group speaks to this commitment. It's a great example of the government's approach to including the lived experiences and the advice of persons with disabilities in our pandemic response. I invite members to visit Accessible Canada on Twitter and Facebook to find out how to join in celebrating National Accessibility Week this year.
We'll go to Mr. Lamoureux now. Mr. Lamoureux.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Mabuhay, you know, it's a very special time of the year. Back in November of 2018, the House of Commons passed a resolution recognizing the month of June as Philippine Heritage Month. And this is something in which, Mr. Speaker, as the chair of the Canada-Philippine Parliamentary Friendship Group, I would encourage people to celebrate the many different contributions people of Filipino heritage has made to Canada's great diversity. Mr. Speaker, at the same time, on June 12, 1898, Philippines became an independent country, and at that day we want to acknowledge the importance of that significant event. We're encouraging people, Mr. Speaker, to be engaged, promote and encourage others to get a better sense of the many contributions to the Philippine heritage community, at the same time recognizing that the Filipino community in Canada is quickly approaching 1 million people, Mr. Speaker. That is something worthy of note. Thank you very much.
Now we'll go to Mr. Melillo. Mr. Melillo.
Mr. Chair, I am incredibly proud of the generosity of people across the Kenora riding as we face this pandemic together. Throughout our riding, individuals and organizations are stepping up to serve their communities. Businesses like the Lake of the Woods Brewing Company have overhauled their production to make hand sanitizer. Restaurants such as Quesada, culinary students from 7 generations, and faith groups like Jubilee Church in Kenora have been providing meals to the homeless. Members of Northern Youth Programs in Dryden are delivering PPE to remote First Nation communities. The Nietzsche Friendship Center is delivering emergency food hampers and partnering with Dr. Grech to provide job opportunities to the homeless population. And True North Aid partnered with Grand Council Treaty 3 to donate furniture to communities in need. That is in addition to the many charities that operate year-round and the countless volunteers who are the lifeblood of their communities. This public health situation has made their work more challenging and ever more essential. Mr. Chair, I would like to express my appreciation for them and encourage all Canadians to follow their example.
We'll now go to Mr. Morrissey. Mr. Morrissey.
Mr. Speaker, today I wish to acknowledge and thank Canada Post workers across the country and in my riding of Egmont for their commitment to maintaining prompt and friendly service during the COVID-19 pandemic, even as they have experienced unprecedented mail volumes. While many of us have been asked to stay home, millions of Canadians are still being called into work every day, and we are relying on these frontline workers now more than ever. Canadians, especially in rural communities like mine, often rely on traditional mail systems to receive important documents and medications they need and to continue supporting small businesses through e-commerce. Canada Post's timely and reliable service ensures that these activities remain possible. In my own encounters with Canada Post over the past few months, service has remained commendably stable with minimal delays, and the hard work of Canada Post workers who are making this happen should not go unnoticed. So the next time you encounter a Canada Post worker, don't forget to thank them for keeping Canada connected even while we're apart.
We'll now go to Mr. Brassard. Mr. Brassard.
During this time of crisis in Barrie Innisfil, it's been incredible to see community, faith-based organizations, businesses, and individuals step up and mobilize to help people in their time of greatest need, like the Barrie and Innisfil food banks, who've been under enormous pressure for their services, Louise Jones for her Front Steps project to promote physical distancing while raising money for the food banks, the Barrie BIA for their Downtown Heroes program, the Innisfil Rotary Club supporting the senior seniors of Sandy Cove, the Barrie and Innisfil Community Foundations, the Barrie Chamber for their work on behalf of businesses and the people they employ, the OHL Barrie Colts, who have scored in the kitchen supplying 30,000 meals to local social agencies like the David Busby Centre and Women and Children's Shelter, and Barrie Families Unite, a Facebook page now with 9,400 members created to help the community with information related to COVID-19. Finally, on behalf of everyone in Barrie Innisfil, a sincere thank you to our frontline workers, healthcare, and first responders. They've sacrificed so much professionally and personally, and we are and will forever be grateful to them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We will now go to Mr. Paulus. Mr. Paulus. Mr. Chairman, in August 1943, Canada, the U.S., and Great Britain met in Quebec City to prepare the D-Day landing in Normandy. In the morning of June 6, 1944, 14,000 Canadian soldiers landed on Juno Beach. Amongst these soldiers was the regiment of Chaudière, the only Francophone regiment in the 3rd Infantry Division to participate in D-Day. As the member for Haut-Saint-Charles and a former commander, I've had the privilege to honor these heroes who sacrificed everything and fought bravely to defend their country and free Europe. I am proud to do so again today. On June 6, 2020, we celebrate the 76th anniversary of this tipping point in the Second World War, and we commemorate these acts of bravery and sacrifice. It is our responsibility to instill respect for this day that shaped our history for generations to come. Let us be proud of all Canadians who fought. Thank you.
We'll now continue to Ms. Ashton. Ms. Ashton.
Mr. Speaker, we cannot remain silent. George Floyd's murder by police has mobilized people across the U.S., Canada, and the world against anti-Black racism and hate. Police violence. In April alone, 3 Indigenous people were killed by Winnipeg police, including 16-year-old Isha Hudson. We must accept systemic racism is alive and well in Canada and listen to those living it. We must end the overwhelming poverty faced by Black and Indigenous communities, poverty exposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. We must respect the rights of Indigenous people defending their lands against corporate greed, like the 4 First Nations that stood up to Manitoba Hydro's work camp operating during a pandemic here. We must speak out against those inciting hatred and violence, including President Donald Trump. His use of military force against the American people must be denounced. Let's be clear, Donald Trump is a racist. He is a fascist. And as Dr. Martin Luther King said, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. We cannot remain silent.
We will now go to Mr. Blanchette. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Tomorrow, we will underscore the World Environmental Day. I would like to celebrate it rather than underscore it, but circumstances don't allow us to do so. Today, we've learned that the government is benefiting from this pandemic to authorize discreetly 100 exploratory oil wells east of Newfoundland without any environmental evaluations. And even though the pandemic allows us to relaunch our economy with a focus on the future, we want to have a green restart of our economy after COVID-19. And this doesn't fit. We cannot accept the authorization of these wells without environmental assessments. And the pandemic has proved that if the government took the climate emergency seriously, it would be able to take action. It needs to make choices for our future, and our trust in this government depends on this, and with the Bloc, and the trust of Quebec as well.
Now we'll proceed with Ms. Kuzi.
31 years ago, more than 1 million Chinese citizens decided to stand up for their freedoms, leading to the pivotal Tiananmen Square protests. In response, the government brought in 300,000 troops to subdue the protesters. 10,000 were arrested and many were killed. The government of China has suppressed details about the number of casualties from that day, but groups estimate hundreds, if not thousands. the government also continues to censor posts relating to the massacres in China, which means that for a younger generation who didn't live through the protests, that there is little awareness about what truly happened. The rule of law is a foundational principle in Canada and is protected by our democratic system. Canada must always hold this principle sacred and must commit to defending it both at home and abroad. As we honor the bravery of those who faced the Chinese military in 1989, we can also be grateful for our freedoms and realize the importance of defending them.
We'll now go to Mr. Fisher. Mr. Fisher.
Il n'y a pas de traduction. Monsieur le Président, il n'y a pas de traduction. Il n'y a pas de traduction français.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing the French translation. We are going to check and see if there's an issue that could be solved. Inaudible for the interpreter.
Thank you. There's no translation.
Chairman, that is the second speaker for which we have not had interpretation.
Pas de traduction en français actuellement.
We cannot hear the French translation, says the member.
Moi, si il y a la traduction, I'm going to say something in English. Please let me know if the translation is happening. No, il y a rien. Hein? Okay.
There is no translation.
We'll pause for a few seconds while our technical people get everything in place. Nous allons prendre une petite...
We are going to take a short break while our technicians try to solve this issue. Thank you.
Nous allons prendre une petite...
We are going to take a few-minute break to see how we can resolve this issue. It won't take too long.
Is being worked on, and hopefully within a minute or two, we should have everything working again.
I rushed my lunch again.
Okay, we'll give it a shot. We'll try again. Can everyone hear me? Est-ce que c'est traduit en français?
Are you hearing the French interpretation from English? Perfect. Thank you. Now we're going to continue
with Mr.
Joyce isn't here, so I'll take credit.
We'll go with Mr. Fisher. Mr. Fisher.
It's the way we roll.
Mr. Speaker, the pandemic has been difficult for people all across Canada, but in my home province of Nova Scotia, we've experienced so much heartache. For a place as friendly and beautiful as Nova Scotia to experience Canada's largest mass shooting is inconceivable. At a time when we'd normally join our friends and family to mourn loved ones and fellow Nova Scotians, we were forced to stay apart. But that didn't stop us. We joined each other virtually in song and in spirit to mourn those we'd lost. When we thought our hearts couldn't take any more, we heard the news that a Cyclone helicopter out of 12-wing Shearwater crashed on its way back to HMCS Fredericton. 6 lives were lost. Collectively, we mourned. And then we received news that one of Canada's iconic snowbirds was down, and Captain Jennifer Casey from Halifax was lost in the crash. And together, we mourned. But we will not let tragedy take away our spirit and what it means to be Nova Scotian. As sure as the sunrise, as sure as the sea, as sure as the wind in the trees, we rise again.
Nous allons maintenant procéder aux questions adressées au ministre.
We'll now go to questions to ministers. We will suspend deliberations every 45 minutes for approximately 2 minutes to allow people to substitute in and out safely.
Mr. Poliev.
Thank you very much. The government says it has started 53,000 infrastructure projects. The PBO says that 20,000 of them are missing from the list. Would the government table the list of those 20,000 projects, including the start date, the amount spent, the location, and what's being built?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you for the question. As the PBO knows, we have more than 33,000 itemized projects that we have provided to his office. These are projects like the 1,550 solar panels installed in the District of Hudson's Hope in BC, improvements to the Legacy Trail between Canmore and Banff, the rehabilitation...
Mr. Poliev.
The government claimed that there were over 50,000 projects. Now, the Deputy Prime Minister says 30,000 projects. That means there are 20,000 missing projects. Will the government table that full list, including the start date and what's being built for those projects?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a reporter, I was always careful not to misquote people. So let me be clear on what I said, which is that there were 33,000 itemized projects that we provided to the PBO. There are also approximately 12,000 municipal projects that have been funded through the Gas Tax Fund, and I encourage the member opposite to speak to mayors across...
Back to Mr. Poliev.
Add it up.
So there are 20,000 missing projects. Will the Deputy Prime Minister table the list of those projects today? Yes or no?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Let me, Mr. Speaker, talk about some of those 33,049 to be precise.
Mr. Poliev.
There are 20,000 missing projects from the list. Will the Deputy Prime Minister, yes or no, table the list of the missing projects today? Yes or no?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
So let me help the member opposite with some precision. As I said, 33,049 projects have been itemized. There are also approximately 12,000 municipal projects.
To Mr. Poliev.
So the government said there were 50,000 projects. They say that they only have a list for 30,000 projects. 50,000 minus 30,000 equals 20,000. Those are the projects for which there are no start dates, no locations, no description. We don't even know what they built. And according to the PBO, they total $5 billion a year. That's $5 billion a year in missing projects. Will the Deputy Prime Minister table that 20,000 project list today? Yes or no?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member opposite seems to have a problem hearing precisely what I am saying. I've heard him say 30,000 a few times, but I think I've been quite clear that the itemized projects are 33,049. This includes 8,548 projects in my own Ontario, 4,594 projects in BC, 3,502 projects in Saskatchewan, 3,096 projects in Alberta, 2,800...
Now go back to Mr. Poilievre.
So the Deputy Prime Minister will not agree to table the list. Here's a simple question. The government claims they've spent $10 billion a year on infrastructure. The PBO says there are only lists adding up to $5 billion a year. Will the Deputy Prime Minister, yes or no, commit to tabling in the House of Commons the list for the remaining mysterious and so far unlisted projects?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to being very precise on what we are doing in infrastructure. So let me be precise and say 33,049 itemized projects, an additional 12,000 municipal projects funded through the gas tax, which is an excellent way for municipalities to build, and the mayors are extremely keen on it. You should talk to them, members of this House.
45,000.
Maintenant, nous allons continuer avec Monsieur.
We'll now continue with Mr. Blanchette. Please proceed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to read a unanimous motion from the Quebec National Assembly that the Quebec National Assembly deplore that costs covered by the health transfer has decreased by 50% since it was introduced, going from 50 to 23%. It urges the federal government to quickly review funding for the Canada Health Transfer, to increase it significantly for the current year and for following years by increasing it by at least 6% with no conditions attached, while respecting Quebec's jurisdiction over health. This motion was adopted unanimously by members of the Quebec National Assembly. In the mid-90s, the federal government decided to balance its budget by cutting transfers to Quebec and the other provinces. Now we're facing a situation that's even more dramatic because of the amounts of those transfers. Will the government respond to this unanimous request from the Quebec National Assembly? The Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank the member for this important question. Today, as never before, Canadians and Quebecers understand the importance of health, of what the provinces are doing for Canadians and Quebecers. We also all understand the importance of close cooperation between the federal government and the provinces in the fight against coronavirus. That is exactly what we are currently doing. We are helping and supporting provinces to fight the coronavirus. We must continue to do so. That is what we are doing. I'd like to say a few words about our seniors. We all understand the very serious situation facing our seniors, and I'm very proud of the men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces. We'll continue with Mr. Blanchette. We don't understand each other at all, put simply. The federal government receives money, and it has an obligation to transfer to Quebec so that the Quebec government can fulfill its responsibilities that are exclusive to it for people who benefit from the healthcare system in the province. The Canadian government is now taking money that belongs to Quebec and is holding on to it, holding it back. And it's attaching conditions for Quebec before transferring the money to Quebec that Quebec is Quebec's money. Members from all political parties in Quebec, in the National Assembly, agree that it's Quebec's money and that you have to give it back to us because we need it to deliver healthcare services that are under our jurisdiction. Does the Canadian government consider it above a unanimous vote in the Quebec National Assembly? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you for the question. Mr. Chairman, our government, the federal government, considers itself a partner with all provinces. We are the partner. We are Quebec's partner. And we understand, especially today, because of the coronavirus, that we are facing an economic crisis as well and that we need to work in close cooperation. Clearly, Mr. Chairman, we respect provincial jurisdiction, but at the same time, the federal government is prepared to do everything that is necessary. And the clear evidence of that, the proof, are the excellent men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces who are today in Quebec saving lives of Quebec seniors. We're all very proud. Mr. Blanchette, you've got 30 seconds left. Now, the National Assembly in Quebec isn't asking you to be their partner. They're asking you to provide them with the money so that they can fulfill their own mandate. If it hadn't been historically set up that way, then holding the money back, holding Quebec's money back, isn't something we wouldn't have to ask. We wouldn't have needed to put in place exceptional measures for long-term care facilities. Quebec would have had the money. This is the only way to be a partner, by giving Quebec the money that it should go to it. The Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Chairman, we are working today closely with Quebec. And I must point out that I greatly appreciate the collaboration in the province. It's absolutely essential today in order to save the lives of Quebecers. On our side, we'll now move on to Mr. Singh.
Mr. Singh.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President, Mr. Speaker.
For my first question, I want to know if the government acknowledges that a crisis continues in the long-term care facilities. At present, there are still inadequate resources to deliver the services our seniors need. Is the government prepared to change the decision to withdraw Canadian Forces members until adequate resources are in place to protect our seniors in long-term care facilities? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the question. It's an important one. As I've already said, they are the people doing the most important work in the country today, the most appreciated. And of course, I'm referring to the members of the Canadian Armed Forces who are today in Quebec and in Ontario and who are working to help our seniors. Clearly, it can't be a long-term solution. I don't think anyone in Canada thinks that our soldiers must work there for the long term. But I'm talking about the short term. I'm talking about right now. We need a commitment from the government, from the federal government. We need the federal government to commit and ensure that the Canadian Armed Forces, who are doing tireless work, relentless work, will remain in place until we have the human resources we need in order to protect our seniors. Can I have a commitment from the Liberal government to not withdraw the members of the Canadian Armed Forces until we have sufficient resources to protect our seniors? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the question. I talked about now, about today, and today the Canadian Armed Forces are in place. I am proud of them. I want to thank these men and women in uniform, and all Canadians must thank them. We must also all agree that this is not a long-term solution, and I want to ensure all Canadians and members in this House that we are now...
Monsieur Singh.
We'll now go to Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's really clear based on the military report that the conditions in long-term care were horrible. But what was most chilling was the conditions in the for-profit long-term care homes where people were worried, staff were worried about using equipment because of the cost of that equipment. They were reusing syringes, using expired medication. Will the government agree that there is no place for profit in the care of seniors, of our most vulnerable?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
I would really like to thank the member opposite for that question. And I have to say that, like him, some of the most chilling sections of those appalling reports were the ones he just cited. And to know that people were reluctant to use the physical material that our elders needed to be cared for because of concerns around cost should be deeply worrying to all Canadians. Now, when it comes to the future of long-term care in Canada, I think we need to act with speed, but not haste. Clearly, a lot has...
To Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh.
I appreciate the openness, but I want a commitment. Will the federal government agree that profit has no place in the care of vulnerable seniors in long-term care?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Let me agree that no senior should ever not have the physical materials needed for their care because the person providing that care is worried those materials cost too much. I think we are all rightly appalled by that.
Back to Mr. Singh. And Mr. Singh, a short question.
Is it the digital service question? Digital service. You had one job.
Mr. Singh? Okay, we'll proceed to Mr. Doherty. Mr. Doherty, oops, wait a minute. Mr. Singh is back.
Look who's back.
At about 15 seconds left. Did Mr. Singh want to take that?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
15 seconds.
Apologize for the tech. Yes. Liberal backbenchers have also agreed and raised this concern that we need national standards, that we need a care guarantee. Will the Liberal government commit to working towards a care guarantee, national standards to protect our seniors?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government will commit to the essential and profound reform of long-term care in Canada. And in that commitment, let me say, all options need to be on the table. And we need to work collaboratively with the provinces as we have been doing. And I'd like to thank the provinces.
We'll now go on to Mr. Doherty. Mr. Doherty.
Mr. Chair, an estimated 47% of small businesses in my riding are ineligible for any form of relief. We've heard for weeks that help is on the way. Our offices are inundated with more calls and messages pleading for help. When can I tell Roy from C Plus Ranch, Jack and Sheldon from Central Display, and the hundreds of other seasonal, event, and tourism-based businesses that help truly is on its way?
The Honourable Minister.
Oh, yeah, on screen. It's Melanie. No. Guys, look, wait.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
No, your
it
time is
stops.
not clicking. No, not at all.
I just want to assure the honourable members that when there is a pause, the time is stopped and they do get their full time. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, we know that the tourism sector is very deeply impacted by the pandemic and the economic crisis, and that's why the wage subsidy is there until the end of August. That's why there's the CEBA account, so the $40,000 loan, and that's exactly why there's the rent relief program. But we know we have to do more, and that's why we also announced $70 million to support the tourism sector over the weekend, and more help is on the way. Thank you.
Doherty.
On May 5th, NAV Canada quietly announced the closure of 18 flight service stations across Canada, with a disproportionate 11 in my province. Was the minister aware of these closures prior to the May 5th press release?
The Honourable Minister.
Did he say NAV?
Mr. Speaker, yes, I was very much aware of the decision, and it was after a very extensive amount of consultation with NAV Canada, we made the decision that it was possible to do this safely.
Mr. Doherty.
Was the minister aware that with these closures, over 75% of British Columbia is now without critical flight information systems during nighttime and inclement weather operations?
The Honourable Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I was very much aware of this, and this is for a very restrained period of time between 10 p.m. at night and 6 o'clock in the morning, and we looked at every airport.
Go back to Mr. Doherty. Mr. Doherty.
Does the minister know how many medevac flights take place daily in British Columbia?
The Honourable Minister.
The number of medevac cases that exist across the country is monitored through NAV Canada, and we make sure that...
Back to Mr. Doherty.
How many of these flights will be impacted by NAV Canada's flight service station closures?
The Honourable Minister.
We evaluated this very carefully before making our decision with respect to medevacs and also resupply.
Mr. Doherty.
The flight service stations provide up-to-the-minute critical flight information for our provincial medevac programs. These closures are now putting flight crews and patients at risk. Does the minister know how many medevac flights take place daily in BC?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I disagree with the assessment provided by my colleague. We did this because we were confident that safety would be preserved, and those airports are still open during the night.
This decision was made without any consultation with the provincial government, the communities, the airlines, the airports, or the health authorities. Can the minister answer the question as to why that was done?
The Honourable Minister.
We evaluated it very carefully according to 4 sets of criteria before making our decision. We're confident we made the right decision.
Mr. Doherty.
Without FSS, flight crews will be forced to make uninformed decisions which could jeopardize passenger safety. Does the minister believe this is acceptable?
The Honourable Minister.
We carefully, Mr. Speaker, assess the risk before making our decision, and we are comfortable with it.
Mr. Doherty.
The air transport industry has been decimated and is on life support. What is the minister doing to ensure that it doesn't flatline?
The Honourable Minister.
We have made certain programs available to the airline industry, and we're watching the situation very carefully.
Mr. Doherty.
Will the minister commit to waiving airport ground rent for the next 5 years?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've waived ground rent for this year, and we will, all options are on the table for the future, depending on how long things last.
Doherty.
Will the minister commit to interest-free loans to help airports cover operation costs?
The Honourable Minister.
As I said, we are keeping all options open. We want to make sure that the airline industry is able to restart after the pandemic.
Back to Mr. Doherty.
Will the minister suspend federal excise tax on jet fuel?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are evaluating all possibilities to ensure that the airline industry gets through this pandemic.
Mr. Doherty.
While shuttering some services, NAV Canada signaled rate increases of 29%. Airports across the country are increasing AIFs. Under this minister's watch, Canada has become the most expensive aviation jurisdiction in the world. Is the minister concerned that Canadians bearing the brunt of the monopoly fee increases?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we live in unprecedented times. There have been difficulties with NAV Canada, which has lost 80% of its revenue, and it had no choice but to raise the fees that it charges to the airlines.
We'll go on to Mr. Lake now. Mr. Lake.
You were just warming up?
Je m'excuse. I'm sorry?
Not bad, though. I like the rapper.
We have a...
Mr. Lake.
Okay, very good. Yes, Mr. Lake.
All right, thank you. My questions are for the Minister of Health. And first, I'm just going to start by asking, what does the current public health advice say is the safe distance for members of the public to be apart from one another?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are encouraging Canadians to practice physical distancing in effort to keep all Canadians safe during this pandemic. Thank you.
Mr. Lake.
And just whatever that, there wasn't a number there, and it wasn't the Minister of Health that answered the question, but I'd ask approximately in the House of Commons right now, how many members are there?
I'm sorry?
How many people are in the building?
The Honourable Minister. Is the question being asked of a minister in particular, or?
I hope this isn't going against my time. It seems to be some confusion,
No,
but understand.
we're just looking for some clarification.
Here, so, yeah, they're just wondering. I'm asking the Minister of Health because I thought she would be there today.
Okay. The Honourable Minister will answer that.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Thank you for the questions. I would say about 40, 50 MPs. But your whip should know that.
Okay. Mr. Lake.
Unfortunately, right now, I don't get to ask my whip questions. Maybe after the next election I will. But just that number of members is considered safe?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are physical distancing here, and I do have an answer to his question. The physical distance is 6 feet or 2 meters away from each other in order to keep Canadians safe.
Mr. Lake, if I can pause for a second. Mr. Lake, do you have a headset by chance? We're having a hard time hearing you.
I do not, actually.
Okay, very good. We'll work on that for the next time.
Move a little bit closer. Are we a little bit better here? All right. So it's a significantly restricted committee meeting, as everyone knows, where the restrictions are almost entirely applied to opposition members. If we were to work together to find agreement to sit with the very same members in the very same seats under regular parliamentary rules, would we be safe? According to the best available public health.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we take our advice from public health, and I can assure the member that what we are doing here is on the advice of public health in order to keep Canadians and members in this House safe.
Blake.
That's perfect. So in my understanding, the only meaningful difference between the way people are sitting there right now and if we were sitting as a regular parliament with full parliamentary function would be at the location of the speaker. Is there any scientific evidence that suggests that it's safer for the speaker to be sitting on the floor of the House of Commons at that table rather than sitting a few feet back in his or her chair?
The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président, je pense.
Mr. Chairman, I think that our member is beating around the bush here. What I'm telling him here is that we have put in place measures so that the opposition has more opportunity than ever before to ask questions. And what's fundamental in Parliament is the ability to vote remotely or electronically. And I'd like to know if the honourable member agrees with that.
Well, I'll point out that the opposition does not have the same opportunities on opposition days, which there are none right now. The ability to move private members' business legislation, of which there is none right now. But I will ask this question. Does the evidence from Canadian health experts indicate that it's safe for members of Parliament to be in the House of Commons on Mondays and on Tuesdays and on Wednesdays and on Thursdays, but it's unsafe for members of Parliament to be in the House of Commons on Fridays?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is a decision by the House to make sure that there's balance between the role of the opposition, which is fundamental. I was there for years and years, Mr. Speaker, remember those days? Between the role of the opposition, also respecting Health Canada, our public health directions, Mr. Speaker. And while we were discussing the days, the option, this and that, the Conservatives were totally absent of the discussions, and I wonder why.
Mr. Lake.
Mr. Speaker, I'd ask the whip, how many opposition days does the opposition have in this arrangement that was passed by the Liberals and the NDP?
The Honourable Minister.
Sorry, but the whip is not in the House, actually, as I know, Mr. Speaker. That what we're saying here is that we put in place a system that allows the opposition to ask any questions. Now, we checked what has been done across Canada in different...
Go back to Mr. Lake. Mr. Lake.
Ahead of everybody.
Mr. Speaker, can the minister outline the evidence that shows that it's less safe for members of Parliament to work in Parliament while maintaining social distancing, but it's more safe for the very same MPs to be out kayaking at Dow's Lake while maintaining the very same physical distancing?
The Honourable Minister.
I don't know about the kayaking because I'm always here working, as the other MPs are, but I can tell you something, that there's more time, more occasions for questions in the House. There's questions on any topic. The committees, you have 9 committees working, Mr. Speaker, more than all the other legislations, Mr. Speaker, and I wonder why they take no for more time than less.
Maintenant, nous allons continuer avec Monsieur.
We'll now go to Mr. Généreux.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Minister Joly. I won't lose any time. Tourism in Chaudière-Appalaches and Lower St. Laurent represent alone 15,000 jobs and $650 million in economic spin-offs. What is the Minister's plan to support this industry? The Honourable Minister. I'd like to thank my colleague. I know he is concerned by the tourism industry in his region, and I was able to visit it several times. So there are measures in place, and for example, assistance for commercial rent. We're going to continue with Mr. Généreux. Mr. Chairman, Quebec and the tourism industry is certainly currently asking for $150 million. And what is Ottawa's plan? The Honourable Minister. As I said, of course, we are establishing measures and also new funding through DEC. I will have good news on this in coming days. Mr. Généreux, I'm looking forward to this good news. The Honourable Minister, I understand my colleague's impatience, but in coming days this will be released. Mr. Généreux. Mr. Chairman, yesterday the President of the Treasury Board said here in this House that we had to be transparent with everyone. Transparent means giving concrete answers to questions. When will the Minister make the announcement? The Honourable Minister, listen, there will be good news coming in coming days, and I'll be happy to give my colleague good news.
You have a point of order for Ms. Collins? Ms. Collins. Ms. Collins, can you hear me?
Oh, no. I think I could only hear Minister Joly about as loud as the translation, and so it was very hard to make out her answer. I'm just wondering if she's on the right channel or potentially maybe there's some technical difficulty.
Okay, we'll take a very short pause, check with our technical people, and check with Minister Joly to find out if everything is in place. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Okay, c'est ajusté, tout est bien? Everybody?
Can everyone?
Okay. Madame Ministre, c'est à votre tour. Est-ce que c'est...
It was your turn? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Généreux. I appreciate the Minister's non-answer, but this week we've announced $7.8 million for Canadians who are on either EI or the CERB. This is good news, but there is no money for Quebec in this. When will this be announced? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have spoken to the Quebec tourism industry, and they've been happy with the government's measures to date. And of course, we are having conversations with the Quebec Tourism Alliance, and we will have good news to announce shortly. We really want to support this industry. We're going back to Mr. Généreux. We'll be announcing $150 million for this industry in Quebec. Will there be a portion for Quebec? The Honourable Minister will always be there to support the tourism industry. We've done so since the beginning of the pandemic and will continue to do so, Mr. Généreux. I'm not sure if the Minister will answer this question, but many tourism seasonal workers in Quebec and elsewhere in Canada in fishing and other sectors who are on EI. And what is the government doing to meet the requests of these workers, seasonal workers, to ensure that they have the money they need in the fall and afterwards? The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we know the particular predicaments of our seasonal workers. We have an EI seasonal pilot in place that adds another 5 weeks to the EI total week, and we have committed to making that seasonal pilot permanent. We also know that seasonal workers are worried that they haven't accumulated enough EI hours or weeks, to qualify, and we're looking at how we can help everyone. Thank you.
Monsieur Généreux.
Mr. Généreux. Chair, I want to make sure I understand correctly. There was a 5-week pilot project. Will this be a permanent project if it benefits everyone? And if so, what are the conditions to access it? The Honourable Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I can confirm our commitment to making this pilot permanent. We're working out the details. And more importantly, we're going to make sure that everyone has the support they need coming out of this and as we recover through this pandemic. Thank you.
Genereux.
Mr. Genereux, Chair, the Quebec Municipality Union received some $2 million from the government, and the government said that there may be additional funding aside from the money that was already given in Quebec. One of the rules that was imposed by the federal government was the 20% for fire halls, citerns, and other things that serve the community. Can the government, is it expecting to loosen these measures to allow municipalities to spend the money in a more beneficial way? Chair, we're very proud of what we're doing in investments in infrastructure across the country. We're working closely with the province of Quebec and municipalities to invest in projects. We're doing it directly with the province of Quebec, and we're also doing this with the gas tax, which we're going to continue. Thank you.
Go to Ms. Block. Ms. Block.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for this opportunity. My first question is for Minister Anand. Is the contract with Becton Dickinson for vaccine syringes a sole-sourced contract?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the precise terms of our contracts and are at the current time not being disclosed, given the importance of making sure that we protect our supply chains. When the time is right and the pandemic is over, we will make sure to be fully transparent with regards to these.
We'll now go back to Ms. Block.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think the minister's excuse that providing a little bit of transparency to Canadians would jeopardize our supply chain just doesn't wash. Has her department found a secret PPE manufacturer that no other country has heard of?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me assure the member opposite and all members of this House that our country is facing unprecedented needs as we fight COVID-19. This is an urgent time, and contracting under the national security exception, including sole source contracts, has been in the interests of Canadians.
I'll go back to Ms. Block. Ms. Block.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. On the one hand, Minister Anand highlights agreements with Canadian companies who are making PPE, but on the other, she refuses to name foreign manufacturers who have been awarded sole source contracts totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. Why the disparity?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as you're aware, and the member opposite is also, we are procuring millions of items of PPE across a range of goods. And in cases where we are disclosing names of supplier, that is in conjunction with the permission that we are being given by the supplier itself. We need to be careful in these times.
To Ms. Block. Ms. Block.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Are the Canadian companies currently listed on PSPC's website who are making PPE for Canada legally prevented from selling PPE to other countries?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as the member opposite can appreciate, the terms of each individual contract will determine what the supplier is able to do with its own product.
Ms. Block.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. At the very least, and as a service to the rest of the world, will the minister reveal the name of the supplier and manufacturer that sold Canada millions of substandard KN95 masks so that other countries will not make the same mistake?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I understand the question being posed to me. However, let me assure the member opposite and this House that we are negotiating a range of exits from this contract with the supplier, and we do not want to jeopardize those negotiations by revealing this information at this time. When the time is...
Ms. Bloch.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to turn to another topic. Since signing an agreement with Thornhill over 2 months ago, how many ventilators has the company provided to the government?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, is that now? Go ahead. Go ahead now.
Mr. Speaker, as the member full well knows that we are in an arrangement with 40,000 ventilators that are produced here in Canada. Thornhill is one of those vendors, and they have started to produce those ventilators, and we've received a substantial amount from them.
Ms. Bloch.
Can Minister Baines please clarify what a substantial amount of ventilators means when we have only received 203 of the 40,000 ventilators that they say they have ordered?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as you full well know, the number one priority is to protect Canadians and their well-being and to make sure that we have the appropriate number of ventilators to support our provinces and territories. And I can say with a great deal of confidence at this moment that we continue to work with the provinces to meet their needs.
Ms. Bloch, a very short question, please.
The last time that we saw a schedule outlining what had been ordered and what was received, it was reported that we had received 3 ventilators from Thornhill. Can you please tell us what a substantial number of ventilators from this company is?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've indicated, our government's priority is to make sure we have sufficient personal protective equipment, including the number of ventilators that provinces and territories and our frontline healthcare workers need, and we continue to address those needs.
Very good. Before going to the next line of questions, I'd like to remind the honourable members to place their questions through the chair, not directly to the person they're asking the question from or of. We'll now proceed to Mr. Kitchen. Mr. Kitchen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, PPE for our frontline healthcare workers has been in extremely short supply. This is despite the fact that the Government of Canada maintains a National Emergency Strategic Stockpile, or NES, intended to support the provinces and territories when there is an emergent need for medical supplies. We know now that NES has not been properly maintained under this government, and in fact, millions of masks, gowns, and gloves have been thrown in the trash without being restocked. So when the minister initially told Canadians that wearing a mask would do nothing to protect against COVID-19, was she also aware at that time of the lack of PPE stock in the NES?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for that question, and I want to assure Canadians that we are working together with provinces and territories to make sure that Canadians are kept safe from COVID-19. And this includes working with them to supplement their own stockpiles of PPE and medical equipment. And so far, we have been able to fulfill all of the requests from provinces and territories. And NES is still meeting its 24-hour delivery date. As we said, we will continue to support Canadians during this difficult time.
Mr. Kitchen.
Well, the science was extremely clear on the effectiveness of masks in January, and it has not changed since. Mr. Chair, last week, at the Health Committee, the Red Cross stated that Canada has received 42 tons of PPE and other supplies from both Taiwan and China. The Minister of Health recently stated there is an 80-20 split for supply shipments, with 80% going to the provinces and territories and 20% going to the NES. Can the minister tell this House exactly how much of the 42 tons of supplies has gone to the NES?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as the Minister of Procurement, we are responding to requests from the provinces and territories, and we are delivering PPE to frontline healthcare workers under the 80-20 arrangement, which is working very well for our provincial and territorial colleagues, and we are responding to emergencies in addition to those distributions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Kitchen.
What is the breakdown of the items received from Taiwan and China through the Red Cross? How many masks, gowns, gloves, etc. have been received?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the items that we are receiving externally and via our procurements are all put to the NES and then delivered out to the provinces and territories on the basis of the 80-20.
Mr. Kitchen.
Well, the minister has had months to work on addressing the issues, and surely they could tell us that information. I can tell the minister that as of May 26th, overall Canada has received roughly 9.6 million face shields, 39 million gloves, 3 million gowns, 11.9 million N95 masks, 101 million surgical masks, and 203 ventilators. It's simple math to figure out what 20% of that is. Can the minister tell us where in Canada are these 20% of supplies being stored?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the 20% of items that are not being distributed out to the provinces are stored in the warehouses of the Public Health Agency of Canada when they arrive in Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Kitchen.
Where are those locations?
In Canada?
Mr. Speaker, there are multiple locations of the Public Health Agency of Canada's warehouses, including one in...
Back to Mr. Kitchen. Mr. Kitchen.
As we are concerned about a second wave, has PHAC begun to replenish the nest at all stockpile locations?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thank the member for that question. It is our top priority, of course, to always ensure that there is adequate supply for people in Canada during this important crisis.
To Mr. Kitchen.
Since we sent expired supplies to China, what are the expiry dates of the supplies that we've received in return from China?
Honourable Minister. Put together a little... The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, may I suggest to the member opposite that as he himself has recounted, we are procuring millions and millions of PPE supplies, and the expiry dates on these supplies vary by product and by order. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Very good. We'll now take a very short pause in order to change up and continue the line of questioning.
I just got one.
How do we turn that off? I know. That's watch.
Merci.
Thank you very much for your patience. And now we are going to go to Mr. Terrien for the next question. Mr. Terrien, you know that the wage subsidy program is funded by taxpayers in Quebec and Canada. The Liberal government, the Liberal Party, has sought roughly $1 million since March 15th. They've taken taxpayers' money. A poll published yesterday says that 57% of Quebec taxpayers say that they want the party to refund this money. Will they do it? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Chair, the wage subsidy has been created to help employers to protect jobs that Canadians depend on and to rehire workers who were already laid off. This support applies to employers of all sectors, including not-for-profit organizations that were hit hard by COVID-19. To date, more than 2 million employees across the country are being supported by the wage subsidy, and we're going to continue to support them. Mr. Terrien, Chair, this $1 million that they sought will end up in their election coffers and will fund the Liberal Party's partisanship. This is unavoidable, and this means that the taxpayer money, whether it's Liberal or not, will end up funding the Liberal Party's election campaign. This doesn't make sense at all. My question is very simple. Will they refund this money? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chairman, we are not going to discriminate amongst workers across the country. We're going to support employers to ensure that they keep workers on. And this is why we established the wage subsidy. We are going to continue to encourage employers to support workers across Canada through this pandemic. Mr. Terrien, Chair, in the same survey, they've said, and we're talking about Liberal electors, 57%, what do they say? Refund the money, because the Liberal Party should listen to its own electors and refund this money. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Chairman, this support applies to all employers across the country, and we support workers. We want to ensure that these workers can continue to be employed, and our message to Canadians is clear. Regardless who you work for, our government will support you. The wage subsidy is to help workers in all sectors of the economy to get through this crisis. Mr. Terrien, Chair, they're not listening to their electors who are saying that this money should be refunded. This is a lack of respect. We've been hearing answers on this since the beginning. It's a lack of respect. Out of respect, will they refund this money? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Chairman, we do respect Canadians from across the country, and that is why we've established the wage subsidy, and we are going to continue to support workers during this crisis. As you know, more than 2 million employees across Canada are currently being supported by the emergency wage subsidy, and this guarantees that they can continue. Mr. Terrien, back to you. These are the two richest parties in our country. The Conservatives said they're going to refund the money, but they've received $1 million since the beginning of this. Well, when they talk about protecting workers, and if this is true, how many workers would have been laid off by the Liberal Party if they had not had this subsidy? They should tell us. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Chairman, the wage subsidy supports workers. So we're going to continue to help employers to have access to this important program. And as I said earlier, our message to Canadians is clear. Regardless of who you work for, our government will support you. Mr. Terrien, you have roughly 40 seconds left. This government has created a program that its party uses. That's normal. They always repeat the same answers when we ask questions on this. They pocketed more than $1 million since March 15th, and they're going to extend the program by 3 months. If they don't want to refund this money, which is unacceptable, can they at least tell us that they won't be also taking this subsidy for the next 3 months as well? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Chairman, I would like to repeat that it's important to know that the wage subsidy in Canada is to support workers across the country. Employers are using it right now, and we encourage them to do so. We are going to support Canadians to the very end.
Mr. Baker in Etobicoke Centre. Mr. Baker, go ahead, your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be splitting my time with the member for Saint Laurent. My question is to the Minister of National Defence. Minister, the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces have always been there to risk their lives to serve Canadians, whether at home or abroad. During the COVID-19 pandemic, here in Etobicoke Centre and across Canada, they've answered the call to serve once again. 1,600 troops have deployed to long-term care homes in Ontario and Quebec as part of Operation Laser to care for and to protect our most vulnerable, our parents, our grandparents, and our loved ones. My constituents have had the privilege of observing their service up close when the Canadian Armed Forces deployed to the Edenville Care Centre, a long-term care facility right here in Etobicoke Centre. Once again, their professionalism, their sense of duty, and their capabilities have saved lives. I know that I speak for the members of my community when I say that we are grateful beyond words to the Canadian Armed Forces members who are caring for my constituents in Etobicoke Centre and for people across Canada. Minister, could you please update us on Operation Laser in our long-term care homes? And with this Sunday being Canadian Armed Forces Appreciation Day, could you tell us how we can best support our troops who are risking their lives to serve Canadians once again?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank the Honourable Member from Etobicoke Centre for the question and for his tireless work that he has done for his constituents. Mr. Chair, the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces has been there for Canadians from the beginning of this pandemic. They were instrumental through Operation Globe in repatriating 650 Canadians. That commitment to supporting their fellow Canadians has never stopped, and they have continually put themselves in harm's way to protect our most vulnerable. And I'm so proud of the extraordinary work the Canadian Armed Forces has done in long-term care facilities in Ontario and in Quebec. Our women and men have been working 24/7 in these facilities to care for our parents and our grandparents. Because of that important work, we have designated Operation Laser as a special duty operation, which will ensure our women and men receive the benefits they are entitled to. We're also pursuing hazard pay, and that work is ongoing. And as we come up to Canadian Armed Forces Appreciation Day this Sunday, I ask all members of the House and all Canadians to take a moment to appreciate the outstanding work that all of our serving members do, both at home and abroad. And I also want to give a special thanks to all the families of our serving members as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll now go to Ms. Lambropoulos. Mr. Lambropoulos, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, last week, George Floyd, a black man, was killed by a City of Minnesota police officer. A few months before the murder, Ahmed Arbery was beaten to death by a former police officer and his son while jogging.
Brutality and systemic racism are not an American problem alone. They are problems in Canada as well. They are problems in my home province of Quebec and in my city of Montreal, and we need to do better for Canada's black community. According to the Canadian Human Rights Commission, while anti-black racism is more subtle in Canada, its roots run deep and are embedded in our society. They are built into our institutions and perpetuate the social and economic disparities that exist in everything from education to healthcare to housing and employment.
In light of these tragedies, last week, Americans and Canadians rose up to protest this anti-black racism and to show solidarity with the black community.
Acceptable that anyone should be afraid for their safety because of the color of their skin, even more so when the fears of the very bodies and institutions that are meant to protect us. All levels of government must step up. Mr. Speaker, what is our government doing to make life safer and fairer for black Canadians?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Chair, I commend the MP for St. Laurent for not choosing silence. Anti-black racism, discrimination are present in Canada, in our communities, our workplaces, our kids' schools, and we need to be willing to speak up. Keeping silent is to condone racism. Yesterday, I attended the Solidarity March in the region of Waterloo. Thousands came together safely and peacefully to say enough is enough. Inequities and systemic racism exist in our institutions. For a truly inclusive Canada, we must all step up, practice allyship, and make workplaces, communities, and public spaces safer, informed by people's lived experiences. Our government is taking action. Our new appointment process is resulting in GIC appointments better reflecting Canada's diversity. We recognize the UN Decade for People of African Descent. We invested in mental health supports for Black youth. The Anti-Racism Secretariat is working to address systemic racism in all federal departments and agencies. The Immunity Task Force will provide disaggregated data so decisions are informed by science and evidence. And the requested capacity building investments will be announced this summer. I look around and see allies, Mr. Chair. We must continue to do the work necessary. It won't be easy, but if we each do our part, I believe we can get there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we'll now go to Mr. Bachrach, Skeena-Bulkley Valley. Mr. Bachrach, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I will be sharing my time with the member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. Mr. Chair, it's been a week now since the Parliamentary Budget Officer told us that he was unable to get details on thousands of infrastructure projects that this government has funded. Will the minister please tell us whether in that week she has had a chance to provide the PBO with the information he is seeking?
I'd like to thank the member opposite for the question. We're proud of the historic investments our government is making in infrastructure. We've provided more than 33,000 itemized projects to the Parliamentary Budget Officer's Office. In addition, there are also over approximately 8,500 CMHC projects related to housing, which we do not make public because of privacy and security reasons. In addition, there are also approximately 12,000 municipal projects that have been funded through the gas tax. And I invite the member opposite to discuss with mayors across the country, including in his own riding, about how these...
We'll return to Mr. Bachrach.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask the question again. Has the PBO received the information on thousands of infrastructure projects that this government has funded, information that he clearly is seeking?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said, we have provided more than 33,000 itemized projects to the PBO's office. In addition, there are projects that CMAC funds related to housing, for which there are privacy and security concerns, including with relation to women's shelters. In addition, there are also approximately...
And back to Mr. Bachrach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, on the municipal projects, these are projects that this government has funded. Does this government not keep track of the details on the projects that it funds?
Minister.
I had hoped to save this question for this response for the Conservatives, but the current 10-year gas tax agreement, which does not require municipalities to provide us with an itemized list, was negotiated and signed by the Conservatives in 2014.
To Mr. Bachrach, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, can the minister please provide this House with an assurance that the Auditor General will not run into similar difficulties when the audit of this government's infrastructure program is conducted?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've been very clear. We are transparent with the projects that we are funding. We have provided information with the over 33,000 projects. We will continue doing that going forward.
Mr. Bachrach.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians clearly want a low-carbon future, yet this government's climate lens only applies to a portion of the infrastructure projects it funds. Can the minister please explain why?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we believe that we need to make sure that we take climate change into account when we do infrastructure projects. It's critically important. It makes a real difference when we invest in projects that lower our emissions, that are more sustainable, that build a more resilient future. We will continue to do that. We've built projects across this country, from renewable energy to public transit projects to projects that reduce emissions.
That will conclude the 2.5 minutes. Point of order, Ms. May.
I appreciate some clarity, Mr. Chair. I know we're not operating under normal parliamentary rules, so I can't point to the standing orders that object to the interruption of speakers during the time that they're posing a question or answering a question. But I find interruptions so that I have trouble hearing the Honourable Minister of what are kayaks made of and were you out kayaking. I'm having trouble hearing the answers. Do those points of order apply in committee format, or are they only when we're meeting as a House as a whole? And I don't appreciate being heckled as I try to object to heckling.
Thank the Honourable Member for her intervention. Members will know that, as Ms. May indicated, with the sort of regulation, if I could say, for this committee is unique. It is specific to the operations of the Special Committee on COVID-19. As such, there is an expectation that the normal rules of comportment for these proceedings apply, but we're certainly at the behest of members to do our best to make sure we conform to that. And the interruptions, of course, are tolerated, but members are asked to ensure that when members have been recognized to speak, that they have the floor and should be able to deliver their remarks without obsessive or unnecessary interruptions, so that other members that will surely want to hear what the member has to say will not be interrupted in the course of doing so. So let's proceed with that. We're finished that 2.5 minutes. We're now going to Mr. Boulouris. J'invite Mr. Boulouris.
Mr. Boulouris. Mr. Boulouris, you have 2.5 minutes. Please proceed. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does the minister realize that municipalities provide Canadians with essential services?
La ministre.
The Honourable Minister. Thank you for the question. Absolutely. Thank you.
Boulouris.
Mr. Boulouris. Inaudible. Does the minister realize that because of the crisis, cities are on the edge of a financial disaster? The minister. Absolutely. We understand that municipalities are essential in this country today in the midst of the coronavirus crisis. Back to Mr. Boulouris. What measures is her government taking to support cities in the current crisis? The Honourable Minister. As the Prime Minister said, our government has already taken tangible steps by advancing funding to municipalities.
Mr. Boulouris.
Back to Mr. Boulouris. Does the Deputy Prime Minister realize that releasing checks early isn't the same as providing new funding, that the two are different? The Honourable Minister. I realize that 100%. It's a good thing and it's important to help municipalities. But I fully understand that it's not enough and we're going to continue to do more. Mr. Boulouris. A suggestion then, Mr. Chairman. Public transit companies are facing huge pressures at present. Why not allow them to have access to wage subsidies? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree. Public transit companies are providing essential services to Canadians. Today, we are in the process of holding discussions with the municipalities and the provinces to look at how we can support them. Mr. Boulouris, one final question. Well, the crisis is ongoing in long-term care facilities. Healthcare staff are out of steam, exhausted. Can those workers count on Canadian Forces members to help them care for our seniors? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Chairman, our men and women in uniform have played and continue to play an extraordinary role in the long-term care facilities to help our seniors. We are in discussions with Quebec on that, and I want to thank the members of the Canadian Armed Forces for their heroic and essential services.
Go to Mr. Baldinelli. Mr. Baldinelli, go ahead. Your first question.
Thank you, Chair. Media today in my riding are reporting on the closure of a popular tourism business, which had been in operation for the past 26 years. Despite their best efforts to stay alive by accessing existing government programs, loans and additional debt are not the liquidity this sector has been requesting from the government. While the Minister of Economic Development did announce a $4.5 million grant to our local tourism marketing organization this past weekend, the funding is appreciated, but it is not a plan, it's late, and it falls way short of what many of my tourism stakeholders have been seeking. Through you, Chair, what is the Minister's plan for supporting tourism?
Honourable Minister.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We know that the tourism sector has been hard hit by COVID, and we're working tirelessly to help all companies across the country. That's why we've invested $75 million in regional development agencies. And over the next 18 months, Destination Canada will be receiving investments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate the Minister's efforts, but I was hoping the Minister of Tourism could respond to that question. Our sector needs a response. More importantly, it needs a plan. The Minister talks about knowing the stakeholders, talking to the stakeholders. Then she would be aware the two largest tourism employers in Niagara Falls, the Niagara Parks Commission and Niagara Casinos, they're both provincially owned, self-funding organizations. They employ about 6,000 people, but yet they can't access the wage subsidy program. So, Minister, will the government consider designating these entities as prescribed organizations under the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy so that they can become eligible for this important program?
The Honourable Minister. We have a minister who is wishing to respond. We're waiting for someone.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for his question. As you know, currently we are having consultations about the wage subsidy and the extension of it, and I invite the member to participate to that online consultation that will end tomorrow. We will continue to work with businesses across the country to see how we can support them during this very difficult time.
Baldinelli.
And it's disappointing, that pause and waiting for a response from the Minister of Tourism. Our sector needs a plan and it needs a response. More debt and more loans isn't the solution. They need liquidity and they need answers today. Now, again, I was going to pose this question to the Minister of Economic Development. Our seasonal tourism workers in Niagara are concerned they will not qualify for EI this winter because they simply will not earn enough hours or income this summer because of COVID. Many have not even been called back to work yet. It was only because of the efforts of our Conservative government that the CERB benefit was extended to seasonal tourism workers. Minister, has this government considered these future EI issues facing seasonal tourism workers?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I can assure the member and all Canadians that we absolutely are considering this very difficult issue. He'll recall that we have addressed it already for fish harvesters. We're looking to see how we can address it for other groups of workers as they face the potential of not having accrued enough EI eligibility, whether it be in hours or days or weeks. And I can assure him we're working on that very diligently.
And back to Mr. Baldinelli.
Thank you, Chair. My question now is to the Minister of International Trade. I have an employer in my riding, the COVI Group. It has a Canadian subsidiary named Cytec, which is a leading producer of ultra-high purity phosphine products that are essential in the manufacture of semiconductor chips. In fact, their Cytec site, which is located in the riding, is one of the largest producers of phosphine gas. Unfortunately, the Liberal government has caused excessive and unexplained delays in granting the export permits needed by this company. Every day the government delays, Solvay Cytec loses market share to its aggressive competitors, primarily located in Asia. Minister, when will the government approve Cytec Solvay's export permits?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for the question. As the Minister responsible for international trade, I'm here answering your question. But I do want to assure Canadian companies who are looking to grow and expand into those international markets that we're working very hard to make sure that they continue to have access to those markets. We have a great service in the Canadian Trade Commissioner Service to help them navigate through the markets that they need to get into. Thank you so much.
We're now going to, nous allons maintenant prendre juste une brève.
We'll now take a brief break to switch out several team members who support proceedings in the House. We'll take a 1 to 2 minute break.
So there's no... They changed their mind. I think they changed their mind.
We don't have to wait as long as we thought. So we can carry on maintenant. Nous pouvons procéder.
We can carry on then. For the next questions, I will invite the Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable, Mr. Berthold, to please proceed. Luc, unmute yourself, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Quebec, Ontario, BC, Alberta are calling on the federal government to provide funding for public transit, despite announcements made by the Minister of Environment. Will they take action to help public transit make it through the crisis? Thank you for the question. We agree that public transit is an essential service. It's essential to the economy and to relaunch the economy. We will continue to work in close cooperation with the provinces to support municipalities and public transit. Mr. Berthold. Several employers that have applied to the Student Summer Jobs Program have not received a confirmation for the summer jobs, even though members' offices have approved the applications. When will the final confirmations take place? The Minister.
Speaker, as you know, in these extraordinary times, we introduced additional flexibilities into Canada Summer Jobs. MPs are receiving their lists in waves, so we can get as much information to employers and MPs as quickly as possible. The next wave is coming, and we have over 50,000 jobs, Canada Summer Jobs, on Jobs Bank, and it's very exciting for our young people. I can reach out to the member.
We'll go back to Mr. Berthold. Students who are available want to work, but they're going to have to go on the CERB because the employer hasn't received a confirmation. Why is the minister encouraging young people to stay home instead of get a job? The Minister.
Opposite, Mr. Speaker, quite the opposite. We are, in fact, encouraging students and young people across the country to work. They want to work, they want to serve and be productive in our communities and help out in this time of crisis. There's over 50,000 jobs on the jobs banks. Students who want to work, there's work available for them, and students want to work. Thank you.
Mr. Berthold. Why has the Minister cut the number of jobs available in Mégantic-l'Érable and Port-Jacques-Cartier? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I apologize. I'm not aware of the particular jobs in the member's riding, but to the best of my knowledge, we have not cut jobs anywhere. I will follow up with him definitely after this committee meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Berthold.
Mr. Berthold. The municipality of Saint-Sébastien near Lac-Mégantic cancelled the Youth Day Camp because officials for the program rejected the application, despite the fact that the position had been approved by the member. The Liberal government isn't respecting recommendations of members of Parliament. Why is that? The Honourable Minister.
That's a good question.
Sorry, I hadn't unmuted, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I can assure the member that absolutely we are working hard to make sure that jobs recommended by MPs, if they meet the eligibility criteria, are in fact funded. And as I said earlier, I will follow up with the member's office directly.
Mr. Berthold.
Mr. Berthold. The municipality of Adstock has cancelled summer camps because 4 applications were rejected by the federal government, despite recommendations by the Member of Parliament. The government isn't respecting recommendations by members and is depriving the young people of Adstock of a day camp. Why is that? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I can advise this committee that indeed the Canada Summer Jobs program was oversubscribed this year. What that tells us is there are lots of employers looking for young people to work. We're looking to see how we can support employers and go beyond the initial 70,000 jobs. But that's good news for our economy, Mr. Speaker, that more jobs are wanted and needed.
Je reviens à Mr. Berthold.
Back to Mr. Berthold. Mr. Chairman. Recommendations by MPs are not being followed. An organization in Neuchâtel, Amélie and Frédéric, applied for positions and they weren't retained. The Farmers Market Solidarity Cooperative in Lac-et-Chemin also applied for 2 positions, and the member for Bellechasse-Lévis recommended them. Why is the Liberal government rejecting these recommendations by members of Parliament? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I recognize that we have leaned very heavily on MPs as we've rolled out Canada Summer Jobs this year. We know MPs know their communities better than anybody else, and we have really appreciated their effort to give us the best advice possible on what jobs should be filled. As I said, we're working through these lists, and I will follow up with the member after this committee meeting to see if I can offer assistance. Thank you.
Mr. Berthold, nous avons...
Mr. Berthold, you've got another 30 seconds. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Summer's just around the corner. Young people are going to choose to go on the emergency benefit for students, and funding has not yet been announced. There were 3 times more employers than there are offers. When will the government free up funds and let young people get to work this summer? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As part of our $9 billion investment in students, we created over 100,000 new positions for young people across the country. That's in addition to the 70,000 Canada Summer Jobs. We're looking at ways to fund even more jobs, and I hope to have further details in the upcoming days or even weeks. But let me assure the member, this is good news for our country, that there are jobs available and young people who want to fill them.
We'll now go to Mr. Hallen, Calgary Forest Lawn. Mr. Hallen, go ahead, your questions.
Speaker. Amanda is a Calgary mom who suffers from a serious lung disease called cystic fibrosis. Because of her condition, she is also vulnerable to severe COVID-19. Although she is one of the lucky 95 but very ill Canadians who will receive the medication Trikafta through a special access program, she is concerned about the other 4,000 plus Canadians with cystic fibrosis who can't get the medication because of the lack of government approval and the minister's failure to listen to patients. Conservatives have been calling on the government to delay changes to the PMPRB and those guidelines, changes that would likely make it harder for patients to get the medicine that they need. And the government finally listened. But will the minister acknowledge that there are still real flaws with the proposed changes?
Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I think there's some confusion about the connection between the PMPRB and the access to Trikafta. In fact, Vertex has not applied for distribution of Trikafta in Canada. I encourage all MPs to write to the company, to encourage the company to apply for permission to sell the drug in Canada. Certainly, we will be able to look at that drug in an expedited way, and we also are excited to have the company apply. Thank you.
Back to Mr. Hallen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to switch gears and continue on with the tone that my colleague, Mr. Lake, set. Canadians sent us to this House to be the voice and uphold democracy and debate. Definitely, this is an unprecedented time. We're going through a pandemic, and many things have been brought to light. Anti-black racism, systematic racism, and questionable things that this Liberal government has done to support communistic regimes such as China. With help from their ally, from the NDP, they've ensured democracy, and this House was shut down and turned into what my colleague called a fake parliament. They propped the Liberals and dropped democracy. Why did this Prime Minister shut down Parliament? Was it so that we couldn't ask questions and hold them to account?
The Honourable Minister.
Wow. So I understand that he used a question to ask me why he can't ask questions, Mr. Speaker.
Exactly.
That's what I understand. And to be honest, I'm not going to take lessons from the Conservatives on democracy. I was sitting on the opposition benches when they prorogued Parliament twice, Mr. Speaker. Not once, twice. What we did here is found a formula that allows the opposition to play their role and also respecting public health guidance.
Back to Mr. Hallen.
Canadians are shocked that the NDP leader gave the keys to democracy to the Liberals who threw it down the Rideau Canal. At a time when we remember the innocent lives lost in the horrific atrocities committed in India against Hindus and Sikhs in 1984, the massacre in Tiananmen Square, and when we reflect on the murdered Indigenous women and girls, this is when we need Parliament the most. We need to bring our constituents' voices through debate, bring forward motions, and this is something that the NDP and Liberal coalition have shut down. Why did they shut down this Parliament, and when will they bring back real Parliament?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are gathered here to discuss, debate, answer questions from the opposition, and also answer questions from the colleagues from everywhere across the country. I wonder why my colleague has a problem with that. The fact that his own colleagues can participate from every province, Mr. Speaker. They have more time to ask questions every day. We'll be meeting on a regular basis this summer. There are 9 committees actually working where they can ask questions, anything. I think this is supporting democracy. We're doing our job, and they should do theirs.
Back to Mr. Hallen.
Mr. Speaker, they want to have question period without any answers and to be answerable to Canadians. On March 24th, the Minister of Finance stated that help was, quote, hours, possibly days away, unquote. Yet, still there is nothing. No company has received support through the promised BDC and EDC financing or the Methane Reduction Fund, and the LEAF program's predatory interest rates and conditions make it almost impossible for companies to access? When is help and real support going to reach Canada's energy industry before it's too late?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member for his question. We recognize the energy sector is absolutely critical to our economy. The 576,000 Canadians that benefit from this sector. That is why we put forward $1.7 billion to clean up orphan wells that have been abandoned. This will create immediate job opportunities and also make sure that we protect our environment. And the measures that we have put in place to support the energy sector are targeted at workers, particularly those workers working for small and medium-sized enterprises that will benefit from the liquidity measures that we have introduced.
We'll now go to the next round. Mr. Malillo, go ahead, your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have been hearing from many business owners and different organizations in the Kenora riding who are anxiously awaiting news on whether they've been approved for Canada Summer Jobs funding. So can this government please provide a timeline for when all final funding decisions will be made?
The Honourable Minister.
I thank the member for his question. I would say this week there'll be another list. Well, tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, and next week as well. I can assure the member it's also working with employers, and the quicker they give us the information, the quicker we can get the jobs out. I'm happy again to reach out to this member and see whatever I can do to get jobs in his riding moving quickly. We're doing the best we can, Mr. Speaker.
Back to Mr. Malillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate that answer from the Minister. I was just wondering if the Minister can tell us, after a business's application has been approved by the Department, how long does it generally take for that approval to be communicated to the business?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that actually depends on what day of the week it's approved. So we try and get lists out from the week every Friday, back to members, back to employers, working with employers, depending on the information they've provided us on their contacts. Again, happy to follow up with the member to give more specific details.
Mr. Malillo.
Can the Minister tell this committee what the average wait time is for a business to be notified after they've submitted their Canada Summer Jobs application?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that depends on the quality of the information initially provided by the employer. Oftentimes we have to follow up and get further details to figure out what the job details are, to figure out to make sure that that's meaningful work for the individual, to check on the salary range. Of course, it really depends on the employer.
We'll go back to Mr. Malillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does the Minister's Department have any information that she can share on how many businesses are currently awaiting a response in terms of their application?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't have that information at my fingertips, but I will commit to the member to see what I can get him as soon as possible. Thank you.
Malillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Post-secondary students generally finish school by May or June each year, and they start looking for summer work much earlier than that. So given that the CSJ applications don't open until December or January of each year, in many cases, sometimes by the time the application has been processed, many qualified students have found work elsewhere. There's many organizations in my riding who have told me that that timeline makes it very difficult for them to recruit workers. So going forward, will this government commit to opening up applications earlier in the year to give businesses and workers more time to plan?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you for the question. That's an excellent suggestion, Mr. Speaker. We are looking to make improvements and streamline Canada Summer Jobs moving forward. As you know, we've added flexibility to the program this year. I will absolutely take that suggestion under advisement and take the opportunity when I follow up with the member to get more details of what he has in mind in terms of timelines.
Malillo, go ahead.
Thank you. With many businesses across Canada struggling to make payroll, the summer jobs funding is more important than ever for many. So I'm wondering if the Minister can give us, the committee members, some insight into what's being done to ensure funding flows as quickly as possible to the approved businesses.
The Honourable Minister.
As I've said, Mr. Speaker, we are doing a number of things differently, like in many programs this year as a result of this pandemic, including adding flexibilities into Canada Summer Jobs so that we can take advantage of every possible opportunity for every student across this country. If we had stuck to the original way of doing, Mr. Speaker, we would have missed out. And although it's been a ton of work for Service Canada and for our MPs, I think we'll be very happy with the results at the end of the summer.
Back to Mr. Malillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to direct my next question to the Minister of Public Safety. During our last exchange, I asked the Minister if he had any statistics pertaining to the origin of firearms used in crimes in Canada. And Mr. Chair, he responded by saying, yes, we do. However, he then subsequently failed to actually provide any of those details. So I would really like to provide the Minister the opportunity to tell all members of this committee and all Canadians what evidence his department has to justify their firearms confiscation.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'll be happy to return to the member's question, but first I'd like to take the opportunity, if I may, to acknowledge the anniversary of a terrible tragedy which occurred 6 years ago today in Moncton, New Brunswick. And on that terrible day, Mr. Speaker, 3 members of the RCMP, Doug Larch, Fabrice Gauvaudin, and David Ross, were murdered, and 2 other officers were seriously injured. Mr. Speaker, the tragic memory of that terrible day will not be forgotten, not by the families of the fallen, not by their fellow officers, and not by the people of Moncton. Mr. Speaker, we all honour their memory, their service, and their sacrifice, and we shall remember them.
Here. We'll now move on to the Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands, Ms. May. Ms. May, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, it's through to the Prime Minister. There's a pattern in history where sometimes leaders will use a crisis that absorbs people's attention to do things they otherwise might not do for fear of global condemnation. Such as in a pandemic, we see President Bolsonaro of Brazil turning more brutality against indigenous people in the Amazon. My questions want to focus on the People's Republic of China, which I think is doing the same thing, and on Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel. To the question of China, we now see the People's Republic of China cracking down in Hong Kong in ways that violate the commitment to one country, 2 systems. What will the Government of Canada do to help Canadian citizens, even if they are dual citizens of the People's Republic, to get home to Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the colleague for the question. We know that the one country, 2 system is what has been underpinning the liberty and freedom enjoyed by the people in Hong Kong. We are very concerned and deeply concerned by the imposition unilaterally by Beijing of a national security law, which would undermine that very foundation. And what we're looking, Mr. Speaker, is we're working with allies to look at the implication that that imposition would have on the various arrangements and agreements that we have in place with Hong Kong.
Back to Ms. May.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope that I will hear from the government in coming days what we plan to do for the citizens of Canada who are in Hong Kong. But I want to thank the Prime Minister for yesterday making it clear for the first time that the Government of Canada will press Prime Minister Netanyahu not to proceed with his plans to illegally annex parts of the occupied territories of the West Bank. I'd like to ask, what specifically is Canada doing to prevent this blow to any future prospects of peace in the region?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for the question. Both in private and in public, myself and the Prime Minister, we have said that we are committed to the 2-state solution, and we view annexation, unilateral annexation, as contrary to international law. I've spoken to the Foreign Minister of Israel. I've spoken to my colleagues in the Middle East. Mr. Speaker, this is the long-held position of the Government of Canada throughout government, and we have made sure that we say that both publicly and privately.
Maybe just a reminder to the Minister, it may indicate that your video is currently off there. We're not getting your video feed there on your responses, and I know we'd all love to see you. So we'll go back to Ms. May for her next question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Honourable Minister for those responses. Changing the subject, but to the same question of issues that may be falling through the cracks due to COVID-19, the climate crisis continues apace. I mentioned in this place a week ago in questions that the new reading of global concentrations in the atmosphere of 417 parts per million carbon dioxide is a measurement that's unprecedented not only over centuries, it is actually unprecedented over the last 1 million years. Since then, a new study in Science News relying on paleoclimatology said that it's actually unprecedented over the last 23 million years. In other words, if we're looking at flashing red lights on the dashboard of human survival, the flashing red light of climate emergency is getting much brighter and much more frightening than the COVID-19 emergency. I want to ask, when will this government meet the commitments of the Paris Agreement to a new, revised, and more aggressive target within 2020 as required by the Paris Agreement?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my honourable colleague for the question. Certainly, the government agrees with her that this is a crisis. It is a crisis that is moving at us perhaps more slowly than COVID-19, but it is a crisis whose impacts will be devastating if, in fact, we do not act, both in Canada and as a member of the global community. This government has made a commitment to develop a plan that will see us meet and exceed our 2030 targets under the Paris Agreement. We have made that as a commitment, and obviously we will continue to work to do that in advance of the next COP. We've also committed to achieving net zero by 2050, which is what science tells us we must do. And we remain fully committed to doing that. And I, of course, am very happy to have these conversations with my honourable colleague and to continue them as we move forward.
That will finish the time permitted for that round. We're now going to Victoria and Ms. Collins. Ms. Collins, go ahead, your question.
I'll be splitting my time with the member for Courtenay Alberni. Small businesses are telling us the commercial rent program is not working. In Victoria and Oak Bay, I've heard from countless businesses who are going under because their landlords refuse to take part. Will the minister admit that this is a flawed program and allow tenants to apply without their landlords so that these small businesses don't fall through the cracks?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would tell my honourable colleague that we worked collaboratively with the provinces to offer this program. We're encouraging landlords to use this program to support the tenants. As we know, these are provincial jurisdictions, so we will continue to monitor this program, and we encourage landlords to use it.
To Ms. Collins.
That didn't answer my question. Will the government allow a business to apply without their landlord, or is the minister okay letting these small businesses fall through the cracks?
Well, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, again, our government is working closely with the provinces and territories to deliver the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance. And although the tenant-landlord relationship is ultimately the responsibility of the province.
Back to Ms. Collins.
This is a federal program, but my community relies on tourism. And now this sector and the small businesses that depend on it are facing lasting financial harm or complete collapse. There are over 20,000 workers who rely on these jobs, and local visitors and the current federal programs are simply not enough to keep them afloat. Will the government provide specific targeted support to tourism businesses so that they and their workers can weather this storm?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Hard hit by COVID-19, and we are working tirelessly the impacts on the Canadian economy. Strong measures have been put in place to provide support to as many Canadian and businesses. That is why we are investing $675 million in our 6th Regional Development Agency, and over the next 18 months, Destination Canada will also invest $30 million with provincial marketing organizations.
Ms. Collins, a very quick question. We've got 20 seconds left.
Tourism needs specific targeted support. Has the government considered adapting the wage subsidy program to address the unique challenges that tourism businesses face, or considered additional supports for tourism with linkages to environmental sustainability?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. We know how heavily affected the tourism industry has been. And this is why our government is establishing a series of programs to help companies generally, workers as well, particularly small businesses. We've invested $675 million through 7 RDAs and Destination Canada. That is the end of available time.
Mr. Johns. Go ahead, Mr. Johns from Courtenay Alberni. Go ahead, your question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Globe and Mail has reported that only 16,000 landlords have signed up so far for the Canada Commercial Rent Assistance Program, while CEBA has had over 630,000 applicants. In a Save Small Business survey, respondents said the rent subsidy is most important to saving their business. Small businesses are at the mercy of their landlords to apply, and many won't. This program is flawed and the uptake is low. Will the government fix it so that small businesses get the support they need?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And our government has stepped up to provide rent relief to businesses while at the same time helping property owners remain rental income through this crisis. We are continuing to monitor this program, and we will support landlords and tenants during this very trying time.
You, Mr. Johns.
Well, only 16,000 landlords have applied. Why is the government using a 70% drop in revenue as the requirement to access the program instead of the 30% for the wage subsidy? Why do businesses have to wait until they're in total ruin before the government comes to help them?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, landlords have been submitting applications, and they represent over 60,000 employees for rent subsidies in the first week of the program. And this represents almost $100 million in rent reductions across Canada. We are inviting property owners to do their part in helping small businesses and their employees to get through these challenging times.
Back to you, Mr. Johns. We've got about 50 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, they need to listen to the hundreds of thousands of employees that rely on those businesses, that rely on this, that are going to rely on your help, that aren't going to get it. Many businesses lease retail space from local governments who are not eligible to apply for the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program. Will you amend it so they can apply, or are they on their own?
The Honourable Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, we are working in collaboration with provinces to offer this program, and we will continue to encourage landlords and tenants to talk to each other, work together to have access to this relief. And we will continue to monitor the program as we move along. Thank you very much.
Now we're going to the Honourable Member for Repentigny, Ms. Posé. This government wraps itself in a green flag, but they just do the opposite. We learned today that the government is authorizing 100 oil drills east of Newfoundland. How did they do this so quickly? The Honourable Minister. Chair, we've always said that environmental processes must protect the environment, and they're very strong, and it's an efficient program. What we published today, the regulations, it establishes a clear and effective process, and it meets the environmental standards. I go back to Ms. Posé. 100 oil drills which are exempted from environmental assessments. What is this for? What is the process for if we don't use this to evaluate 100 oil drills in the middle of the sea? The Honourable Minister. Thank you. This ministerial regulation sets out a clear process for oil exploration east of Newfoundland. It will guarantee that all oil drilling products meet high standards. Back to Ms. Posé. The Minister of the Environment sits on a committee that looks at the post-COVID situation. The Honourable Minister. I'm not exactly sure what to say to that, but like all ministers, I am working on challenges that we're facing, and we are discussing what we have to do for the future. Ms. Posé, is your government, well, you decided to make this announcement in the midst of a pandemic. Why? The Honourable Minister. Thank you. There's been a lot of consultation about this regulation. The process was launched in April 2019. We met with 81 Indigenous groups and others, and we conducted consultations in March and April of this year. The process was clear. Back to Ms. Posé. Several groups asked for the delay of this consultation process because we're in the midst of a pandemic. Are they going to benefit from this pandemic to rip up the Paris Accord? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Chair. My honourable colleagues knows that that is completely false. We did 2 consultations over many months. The March consultation, well, we extended it until April to allow stakeholders to have time to say what was important to them. Ms. Posey, is the Minister of Natural Resources and his colleagues in the midst of a pandemic, well, are they ready to deregulate things at the simple request of oil lobbyists? Does the government plan to restart the economy by favoring oil industry at all costs? Is this a green or a brown recovery? The Honourable Minister. Chair, our government. Thank you. We've always said that environmental processes must ensure the strictest environmental protection and also be efficient. We have shown openness and transparency throughout this process, and we conducted a rigorous consultation process that started in 2019. I go back to Ms. Posey. How can authorizing 100 oil drills allow the government to keep its promise to cut greenhouse gases? The Honourable Minister. There are processes in place. We set up a process with environmental processes and protections that are very strong. And this is something Canadians want. It is good for our country, for the environment, and for the economy. Ms. Posey, how is authorizing 100 oil drills without environmental assessments is part of a green recovery? Is it a green or a brown recovery? The Honourable Minister. As I said, this ministerial regulation establishes a clear and effective process, and we're going to meet the strictest environmental standards. And ocean protection is very important for us, and we are going to establish a process that offers very strong environmental protection and be efficient as well.
Next round of question, and the last round actually, to Mr. Vidal from designee Mississippi Churchill River. Mr. Vidal, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, since it's been a while since I've been here in Ottawa, and I must say that both myself and the constituents who elected me to be here would much prefer you to be sitting in your speaker's chair and that the mace be on top of the clerk's table instead of underneath it. This would signify that we are in an actual session of Parliament. However, with what little time I have today, I want to ask a number of questions which represent the concerns raised by my constituents over the last several months. First of all, we have received many calls and emails from constituents concerned about people either mistakenly receiving CERB or about fraudulent claims for CERB. Through you, Mr. Chair, can I ask, what precisely is the government's plan to recoup these funds?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I can assure the member that we have not compromised the integrity of this program whatsoever. Both CRA and ESDC have a number of data analytical and other tools at their disposal to make sure, based on both the SID numbers we receive and other measures, that anyone who receives a payment they shouldn't have been will be followed up with and expected to pay it back. Thank you.
Back to Mr. Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday, in response to my colleague Mr. Albus's question, the Minister identified moving some integrity measures to the back end of this process. I have on numerous occasions heard this identified at tax time. Mr. Chair, with all due respect to the Minister, as an accountant who's prepared tax returns for over 30 years, we do not have a system in our tax system that allows us to measure periodic income that would be required to determine whether somebody fraudulently claimed CERB or not. The system just does not do that. So is it the government's plan to revamp our whole tax system, or what exactly are these back-end measures that she refers to? Or is it possible that really they have no intention of recouping these funds?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have every intention of following up on every red flag that has been identified in our system. I have referred to tax time as a marker that I've put down to ensure in Canadians that this is the time by which we will have gone through all of this. But we are doing this on an ongoing basis. I can provide the member more details, and I wish I had the technical knowledge to dive into the technicalities. But rest assured, we are following up today, tomorrow, next week, next month on every single red flag in this system. Thank you.
Mr. Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 weeks ago, in response to my question, Minister Blair confirmed that some of the firearms he has banned are in fact used for hunting and thus to provide food for my constituents and their families in northern Saskatchewan. Mr. Chair, why then, in the middle of a pandemic, did this government decide to attack food security in northern Saskatchewan by banning the tools that we use to feed our families?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for, I think, an important opportunity to provide clarification. The weapons that we prohibited are not weapons that were designed or intended to be used either in hunting or for sport shooting. Mr. Speaker, these are weapons that were designed for soldiers to use in combat to kill other soldiers. They have no place in a civil society. And notwithstanding some of the confusion that we've heard from the members opposite, we did not prohibit hunting weapons such as the 10-gauge shotgun or the 12-gauge shotgun. We prohibited weapons designed to kill people.
Back to Mr. Vidal.
Mr. Chair, last week I had the opportunity to speak to Robert. He's a bison and grain farmer in my riding. He recently discovered he is facing a 50% reduction in slaughter capacity for his bison due to the pandemic. In addition to the revenue reduction, he is now facing increased costs, along with a carbon tax, I might add, to feed his families for a much longer period of time. It's unbelievable to Robert that Minister Bibeau put the blame on farmers for not using agri-stability and the other business risk management programs when she knows full well these programs need drastic changes. Mr. Chair, through I ask, when will she make the changes to these programs so that they work for farmers like Robert and his future generation?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I will never put blame on farmers. I would encourage them to use the business risk management programs because there are money in these programs. We are talking about $1.6 billion for an average year, so it could be much more this year. But specifically for the meat sector, we have put $50 million on the table for the beef farmers and $77.5 million for food processing so they can have a higher capacity to process.
There's time for a very short question, Mr. Vidal.
Mr. Chair, I believe one of the primary functions of a member of Parliament is to provide financial oversight. We are now being provided only 4 hours to review $87 billion of government spending since April 1st. Frankly, this is unacceptable. Does this government really think it's appropriate for members of Parliament to have only 4 hours to scrutinize $87 billion of spending on behalf of Canadians?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for this important question. We look forward to doing this. We look forward also to reminding the member that a large portion of that has already been studied and approved and voted on by members of this Parliament, which is absolutely the essential thing to do, because as we work on the urgency of actions of this government, we also need to maintain transparency.
That concludes our meeting for today. Therefore, the committee is now adjourned until Monday, June 8th, 2020 at noon.
Thank you.